Meghan admitted she felt uneasy at an event shortly after it aired, though friends helped her relax. Now, new drama surrounds the show where she first found fame. The palace had always lived by an unwritten rule. What unfolded behind the royal gates was never meant for the outside world. Were there subtle signs, cold stares at formal dinners, polite smiles hiding deeper tension, or frosty silences behind polished appearances? For years, the monarchy projected unity and control, at least in public. But that illusion cracked when an explosive confrontation leaked to the press. It wasn't part of any official announcement. There was no statement, only whispers from advisors, insiders, and guests who had witnessed more than they were supposed to. At the heart of it all stood Catherine, surrounded by the two women who had made her private life more difficult than anyone knew, Camilla and Meghan. Royal watchers had long speculated about rivalries within the family. Was Camilla unsettled by Catherine's rising influence? Did Meghan feel sidelined by her enduring status? Outwardly, the women exchanged polite smiles, posed for photos, and kept up appearances. But behind closed doors, resentment deepened. The breaking point came during what should have been a quiet family meeting at Windsor. With only a few royals present, the discussion was meant to reset their duties for the year. Instead, it erupted. Camilla hinted at her unease over Kate's growing role. Meghan added fuel, questioning her sincerity and hinting at hypocrisy. Catherine stayed calm, refusing to retaliate. She didn't need to, because William overheard everything. Known for his diplomacy, he shocked everyone when he finally lost patience. Angry and protective, he delivered an ultimatum to both women. No more appearances, no more private gatherings. They were finished. The story spread rapidly. The palace chose silence, which only confirmed the truth in the public's eyes. This was no minor quarrel. It was a decisive moment that forced the royal family to pick sides. To the outside world, the Windsors still appeared polished, sharing grand dinners and public smiles. But those who knew the palace best whispered that the real battles always played out away from the cameras. In hushed conversations, guarded looks, and rivalries simmering beneath the surface. Catherine, Princess of Wales, found herself caught between two formidable rivals, Camilla and Meghan. The hostility didn't erupt in a single explosive argument. It built slowly. It crept in through dismissive remarks, subtle insults, and quiet slights that never reached the press but cut deeply in private. What made Catherine beloved by the public, her calm elegance, became the very trait resented by those who couldn't replicate it. But before we continue, we'd love for you to hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying this video. If you just did, we truly appreciate it. Now, let's get back to the main content. For Camilla, the resentment had simmered for years. After decades of working to repair her reputation following Diana's legacy, she had to watch Catherine instantly win the public's heart. Within months of her marriage, Catherine was celebrated as the new people's princess, echoing Diana's grace and humility. Camilla never forgot. She dismissed Catherine's early projects as polished but unimaginative, interrupted her in conversations, reduced her to being the pretty one, and hinted she was playing a careful sympathy game with the public. William noticed. Kate endured. Meghan's arrival in 2018 brought fresh energy and immediate conflict. Early stories about tears at a bridesmaid fitting were only the surface. Meghan found Catherine unapproachable, strategic, and overly controlled. Catherine viewed Meghan as impulsive, self-serving, and dismissive of tradition. While Catherine navigated the royal system quietly, Meghan challenged its very structure. Meghan's supporters called her bold and modern, but inside the palace it felt like a clash of brands. As Catherine's popularity soared during the Queen's later years and into King Charles's reign, both Camilla and Meghan faced more negative portrayals. Camilla was haunted by comparisons to Diana, while Meghan bristled at never receiving the same affection as Catherine. Behind the palace balcony smiles, resentment grew hotter. Meghan skipped events where Catherine's presence dominated. Camilla lobbied for her own children and grandchildren to be highlighted at key ceremonies instead of William and Kate's. Even the seating at formal dinners became a show of power. The late Queen's funeral revealed the cracks most clearly. Meghan stood apart, avoiding eye contact with Catherine. Camilla, stone-faced, barely moved. The silence between them was heavier than words. By 2024, the rivalry was no longer whispered. It was recognized and even managed behind the scenes. William grew increasingly frustrated, trying to shield his wife from an institution that seemed to undermine her. Catherine, however, never lashed out. She remained steady, as always, but the patience had limits. A private meeting finally broke the silence. Tensions spilled into a heated exchange, years of cold hostility boiling over. William decided it was time to draw a line. The meeting had been planned as routine. A discussion at Windsor Castle about patronages, appearances, and an upcoming Commonwealth tour. On paper, it seemed ordinary. But from the beginning, something felt wrong. The smiles were forced, the glances sharper. Present were Charles, Camilla, William, Catherine, and, unexpectedly, Meghan, who had flown in from California, claiming she wanted to reconnect. Her arrival shifted the atmosphere instantly. When Catherine stepped into the room, Camilla and Meghan kept quiet, exchanging sharp glances. The meeting began without incident, though the mood was stiff. Charles, caught as always between personal loyalties and the image of the crown, tried to keep things civil. Still, the tension was unmistakable. Camilla seized on Catherine's question about overlapping charity work, pointedly remarking that not everything revolved around Catherine's photo moments and that service to the crown mattered more than the spotlight. The words stung, their sugary tone concealing clear disdain. Moments later, Meghan chimed in, remarking that some people didn't need constant admiration to prove their worth. The air turned icy. Catherine, known for her composure, remained silent, but those present noticed her stunned expression. This wasn't a debate. It felt orchestrated. A private ambush meant to cut her down. What followed grew uglier. Meghan allegedly questioning her commitment and compassion, Camilla mocking her polished image. Meghan went so far as to remark that Catherine hadn't earned her crown, suggesting she was no different than anyone else who married in. It wasn't just the accusations, it was the bitterness behind them. Years of jealousy and rivalry spilled out in less than 20 minutes. That was when William walked in. He hadn't planned to be there, but a staffer had told him something was wrong. What he saw was his wife sitting silent, with two of the most divisive figures in the family standing over her. The room froze. William asked what was happening. No one spoke. Catherine kept her eyes down, Meghan folded her arms, and Camilla turned away. And then, for the first time, William lost his temper. He asked if they thought the monarchy was a playground, pointing out that his wife was being humiliated. Gone was the careful diplomacy, the polished tone. This was raw anger. He then delivered a command that stunned everyone present. They were done. No more meetings, no more shared appearances. Both women were to keep their distance from Catherine. It wasn't a suggestion, it was an order. For a family trained from birth to suppress feelings, William's response was extraordinary. For years he had tried to be the quiet fixer, smoothing disputes, supporting his father, and managing Meghan's sporadic re-entries into palace life. But that day in Windsor, something gave way. He didn't need to shout. His steady, cutting voice carried all the fury in the world. Looking straight at Camilla first, he told her plainly she had gone too far. The moment William invoked his mother's name, the atmosphere changed completely. He told Camilla she had no right to speak to Catherine that way, and reminded her she would never be Diana. The words hit with such force that Camilla pulled back, caught between anger and humiliation. For years, Diana's memory had followed her into every royal chamber, and William's bluntness left no room for doubt. He had drawn the line. Then his attention shifted to Meghan. He reminded her that she had chosen to walk away, denounced the family as toxic, and yet had returned only to stir more hostility. She tried to defend herself, beginning with a quiet protest that she had been misunderstood, but William cut her off. He told her directly that he had seen enough, that he would not allow his wife to be treated this way again. What followed was final. He told both Camilla and Meghan they were done. No more involvement in matters concerning Catherine or their children, no more appearances, no more discussions. They were no longer welcome. It was not phrased as a request, but as an order. The effect was immediate. Camilla stormed out in silence, her footsteps echoing down the corridor, while Meghan followed soon after, pale and shaken. Catherine remained seated, silent, because William had spoken on her behalf. Within hours, the fallout began. Staff were directed to remove Meghan from future schedules, and Camilla was advised to avoid engagements where Catherine would be central. William's security circle made it clear that the palace inner ring had been redrawn, without them. When Charles was told, he was deeply unsettled. He had known tension was rising, but the speed and severity of his son's response rattled him. For decades he had tried to balance his private devotion to Camilla with his duty to the monarchy and his role as a father. Now, those worlds collided. His choice was brutal. Stand by his wife, who had effectively been cast aside by his heir, or acknowledge his son's authority to defend the crown's future. Charles gave no public reaction. He avoided condemning William and did not demand a reversal, instead suggesting a cooling-off period. In private, he tried to ease tempers, advising Camilla to step back and warning Meghan to stay away from royal business. But William was immovable. To his aides, he made it clear, this was not about pride, but respect. His wife deserved to be treated with dignity, and anyone unwilling to grant that had no place in their lives or in the monarchy's future. Charles, weighed down by the burden of the crown, withdrew quietly. He recognized what the people wanted, Kate. Their faith was with William, and they had no patience left for drama. His choice was to remain silent, to stay neutral, to rely on diplomacy. But in doing so, he may have confirmed what no official statement would admit. True authority was shifting toward William. The palace worked hard to project calm, yet the public had already made up its mind. Within hours, whispers of the confrontation spread from insiders to headlines across social media and the front pages. The nation's mood was unmistakable. Support poured in for Catherine. By evening, Team Kate was trending online. Headlines declared, "Future Queen bullied" and "William draws the line." Comment sections filled with praise for the Princess of Wales, gratitude for William's defense of her, and a rejection of the palace culture that had enabled cruelty for too long. This wasn't a sudden wave of sympathy. Catherine had spent years earning the public's respect, not by chasing scandal, but by remaining steady, gracious, and composed, even under immense pressure. She had endured difficult pregnancies, demanding tours abroad, and endless scrutiny with patience that bordered on unshakable. Now the truth had come into the open, and her restraint was being recognized as strength. She's everything Diana was, graceful, composed, and far above the petty cruelty around her, one viral post read. Even those who normally dismissed royal affairs rallied behind her. Advocacy groups commended her for enduring what they described as a coordinated attack. Analysts revisited years of footage, highlighting moments of subtle exclusion, quick interruptions, cold shoulders, and conversations cut short whenever Catherine was present. The numbers told the same story. A YouGov poll days after the confrontation revealed Catherine's favorability at 84%, her highest ever. By contrast, Camilla had fallen to 34%, and Meghan hovered at just over 22%. It wasn't only loyalty to Catherine. It was a broader rejection of what her rivals had come to symbolize: entitlement, manipulation, and cruelty cloaked as confidence. Catherine herself said nothing. She didn't give interviews, issue statements, or alter her schedule. Instead, the next morning she appeared at a children's charity event in a pale blue coat, smiling warmly as she greeted each child. The press hailed it as a masterclass in quiet leadership. "She didn't need words," a royal commentator told the BBC. "Her dignity spoke louder than any statement could." While Camilla seethed behind palace walls and Meghan retreated to California, Catherine stood taller than ever, not just as a princess and mother, but as the woman the public already embraced as their future queen. The monarchy itself seemed divided, but the public was not. They had chosen their future queen, and the decision was clear. The fallout from the confrontation at Windsor was still unfolding, yet the direction of history already felt set. The cracks that had been hidden for years were now impossible to ignore. At the center stood Catherine, not as a casualty of palace feuds, but as the one who emerged stronger. William's decisive move to cut Camilla and Meghan out of his family's circle wasn't simply emotional. It was a signal that the next chapter of the monarchy would not be ruled by backroom schemes, petty rivalries, or manipulative games. From now on, respect would be the standard. Those unwilling to give it would have no seat at the table. A centuries-old institution, often faulted for its inflexibility, had been reshaped not by decree, but by the moral weight of a husband defending his wife. A future king had aligned himself with the woman the people already saw as their rightful queen. Insiders say the palace has entered a phase of quiet recalibration. Events are being reorganized, invitations quietly withdrawn. Charles, caught between loyalty to his crown and loyalty to his family, treads carefully. Yet one reality is unavoidable. The balance of power has shifted. The influence now radiates from Kensington, where William and Catherine are shaping a monarchy for modern times, one that carries forward Diana's legacy of compassion and integrity. As for Camilla and Meghan, their path back to relevance grows narrower by the day. With public opinion firmly against them and no reconciliation in sight, their gradual disappearance from the royal stage appears less like punishment and more like inevitability. William's decision made final by silence. Meanwhile, Catherine presses forward with poise. Every appearance now feels symbolic, every gesture amplified. No one wonders if she will be queen. The question now is when. She has not only endured the battles behind palace walls, she has emerged victorious. And in her victory, the monarchy may have rediscovered the very essence it nearly lost.